Good morning, dear friends of the Arctic and friends of the Nordic. On behalf of Tromsø, Team Nordic Arctic, a project sponsored by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Fridtjof Nansen Institute, together with partners such as the Nordic Council of Ministers, it's a great pleasure to welcome you to this exciting morning where we will discuss Nordic friendship, experience, knowledge, business and politics. How will we cooperate in the time to come on developing our societies in the Nordics? That's a very important topic in the global and geopolitical situation that we are facing. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce the moderator of the first session. It's Paul from the Fridtjof Nansen Institute. Please.
Thank you very much, Gøril. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this session. We have now 1.5 hours ahead of us discussing how the geopolitical situation affects Nordic regions in the north, the role of Nordic Arctic cooperation, business development, and the role of municipalities in safety and security. So everyone knows it's a serious situation. Just across the border on the Kola Peninsula, Russian bomber jets takes off in the direction of Ukraine. Ukraine is obviously notified by someone. Finland and Sweden has joined NATO, and there is a shift in perceptions and a shift in opportunities for cooperation. How can we be stronger together? So that's the topic for today. To set the stage, we will first have a round of introductions and then 2 rounds of armchair conversations. So I guess we are ready for this. Without much further ado then, I will introduce the first speaker of today, the mayor of Tromsø, Gunnar Wilhelmsen, who will give some opening remarks. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Dear friends, for several years we have talked about the new geopolitical situation, and it continues to change. Donald Trump's remarks about Greenland are just the latest twist. What's certain is that the Arctic, our region, becomes more important every day. We need stronger cooperation east-west, and we are in a good position to do that. Nordic Arctic universities are working together through Arctic 6. Our municipalities and cities through Arctic Base Forum. Business is still a big opportunity, and I'm sure there is a lot of happening in the future. Thanks to cooperation such as Team Nordic Arctic. With Sweden and Finland joining NATO, we have a new possibilities. This allows us to see military defense in a new way, as a part of a connected region. But to succeed, we need a better infrastructure. Roads, railways, and energy systems are all crucial strengthened to east-west connections. Resilient and attractive communities are a key to our total defense. And the fact of hybrid treaties, knowledge, open debate, and trust in our societies are more important than ever. That is why culture, vibrant local communities, and thriving business are essential for both security and preparedness. I'm very excited that these topics are being discussed here in the Arctic capital. I look forward to see this session and to the ideas we will share. Thank you.
Thank you, Gunnar. I will now give the floor to State Secretary and Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Maria Varteressian, to talk about the geopolitical situation. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Allow me first of all to say, dear ladies, gentlemen, friends of the Arctic, Arctic friends, and friends of the Nordic, and Nordic friends again also, that the biggest privilege of working with international relations is to, on a daily basis, work with the big picture. But it's one thing to see the big picture, another thing to understand what it is made up of. But the third and most important thing is to use what we see and what we understand to fulfill the core purpose of foreign policy. And that is to make domestic policy possible. Now, looking at the big picture, we can see that what defines our time, it's really, I've often thought about it as a reversed 1989 era, where all of the trends and the arrows which were pointing in the right direction in terms of democracy, cooperation, trust, optimism, well, it's going in the other direction. It's spiraling down. There is less trust, there is less cooperation, there is a pressure on the multilateral system, pressure on democracy, and we're experiencing that in our region, in Europe as well. And there is a full-scale war raging in Europe that has upended the security landscape and has really put security at the top of the European agenda, which is reflected in the Polish EU presidency that has put security in 7 different ways at the top of the agenda. So to sum up, and I often like to sum up in some simple terms which make it easy to remember. The megatrends that affect our foreign policy and our domestic policy can be summed up in 3 words beginning on the letter C. Conflict, competition, and climate. But in order to tackle those 3 C's, we need yet another C, and that is cooperation, because it is crucial. But together, we can be stronger. We are stronger together with like-minded countries who share our values in the NATO, in Europe, and in the Nordic-Baltic region. We are standing stronger because we are united. Now, I've had the pleasure of working with the High North, the Arctic, for many years in different roles and different capacities. I've worked with Wilhelmsen, who you saw on this stage just a few minutes ago, and it has always fascinated me. Because for many years we've talked about this notion of Arctic exceptionalism. I don't know if it was ever true. But what we can say for sure is that geopolitics affecting the rest of the world, they don't stay there. They affect the Arctic just as much as CO2 emissions that occur, whether it's in France, in Bangladesh, the United States, China, Germany. It doesn't stay there. It ends up in the Arctic. So geopolitics are affecting the Arctic, but it hasn't destabilized the Arctic, and that is important to bear in mind. Now, the High North policy of Norway, it is unique. And the reason why it is unique is that, well, it used to be 10. Now it is 9% of our population are living above the Arctic Circle. Almost half of our territory is above the Arctic Circle. We have modern, populated societies, cities. Tromsø is a perfect example of that. Other smaller cities, and there are very, very small rural communities. That makes up the Norwegian Arctic, and it stands out from the rest of the Arctic. So our policy is also quite unique for the Arctic, because it's not about only regions or distriktspolitikk, as we could call it in Norwegian. It's national strategic policy on several levels. From the smallest, the most local, through the regional, to the national and the international. There is no place in Norway that is more closely interconnected with the domestic dimension and the international dimension than here in the Arctic. And so we know that we're living in quite turbulent times, and they are changing quite fast. And for changing times, we need updated policy. Because, like I said, the core purpose of foreign policy is to make domestic policy possible. Well, we the Norwegian government have launched several white papers recently on defense, on transport, on civil preparedness, and so on and so forth. And several more white papers will be coming on trade, on industry, on climate, and we're also working on strategies. But crucial to have in mind when we make those policies is to remember that nexus between the domestic and foreign policy, and that the heaviest and most important part of everything we do nationally, well, it is connected to the Arctic. And once again, stronger together, that is the title of this event, and it could not be more true. Karen Elleman is a wise woman, and she has said that, well, the Nordic countries, they're small if they are standing alone, but if you unite them, they're quite a force to be reckoned with. And that is my last point as I address you. That we have to cooperate even more closer because we share values. Those values that we share have made us the countries we are today. We cannot take them for granted, but we need to nurture them. And it's like swimming against a strong current because all of the arrows are pointing in the wrong direction. Then it's up to us to define the next steps, the next years, the future and the path ahead of us. But if we remember that our values are a guiding compass, then we will be quite fine, I'm sure. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. I think I will stand here now. I've been given the privilege to ask you a question while you are on the stage. So the topic of this conference is beyond borders. And we all know that a border, it can be, a land border, it can be a barrier between countries and for cooperation, or it can work as a bridge. Now, between the Nordic countries, the borders is a bridge. But for some 25 years, the border with Russia was also kind of a bridge. And I'm asking you not when and if, but how can the Nordic countries work together to be better prepared if Russia, in a distant future, might be more interested and capable of cooperating with us? How can we work together to be better prepared? We used to have the Barents Cooperation, for instance.
Oh, we still have that.
It? Yes.
This year. And then we need to figure out what we do after. Well, geography is constant. Geopolitics are changing. But what cannot change is the fact that we have to cooperate, like-minded countries, to protect the values, like I mentioned. And the security landscape and the fact that we're living in a time of deglobalization, regionalization, regions mattering more now than in a very long time, well, we're in the same boat, so we have to row in the same direction. The security, the geopolitical landscape has brought the Nordic countries particularly, but also the Nordic-Baltic countries together, closer together. So it's with Finland and Sweden joining NATO. Norway has been a stark supporter of that for a long time. And also there are fewer gray zones between like-minded countries in terms of clubs we are cooperating within. And although Norway is not a member of the EU, we cooperate very closely with the EU. So we have the EU, the EEA, and the NATO, which is a solid ground to build further and stronger cooperation on. And it's important to remind, this is my last point, that there cannot be really robustness or resilience or security if we don't remember that it's all about people and communities. People must feel safe. People must feel that they have something meaningful to do, both in terms of what they do for a living, for work, but also what they do in their spare time. And they must feel safe. And that safety we can provide better if we stand together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now give the floor to Secretary General of the Nordic Council of Ministers, Karen Elleman, who has been given the task of talking about the topic of trust in the Nordics.
And thank you. Thank you so much, dear State Secretary and all of you speakers here in the front row, organizers, the whole audience. I mean, all of us, friends of the Nordics, of the Arctic. Yes, I've been asked to talk about trust, and thank you for asking me topic because in challenging times, my message is twofold. First of all, we must not take for granted the invaluable trust that we have in our Nordic democracies. And secondly, we must meet today's challenges by acting out of the title of this event, by being stronger together, by strengthening our resilience and our collaboration. The Nordic Council of Ministers is, first and foremost, a collaboration between 8 Nordic countries. We share the same set of values: democracy, equality, civil liberties, open societies, and of course, trust. And trust, that is, among all the other ones mentioned, these key values that, also said, we cannot take them for granted. And it is hardly necessary to repeat after what Maria just said and other speakers also describing what challenges that we are facing. But I still would like to repeat it. Climate change is upon us. There's an ongoing war just in our neighborhood. International rule of law is under pressure. Our governments are asking us, all of us, to be prepared in case of acute crisis. And disinformation is gaining ground, especially on digital platforms. So trust is our Nordic gold. It's our common strength. And the Nordics, we do still have the highest level of social trust in the world. And this benefits both the economy and individuals, and that's why it benefits our societies as a whole. Trust between people and their governments has been the foundation of developing our Nordic democracies. And although there has been some variations, the level of trust in our governments still remains very high. And today, as we face these new challenges, we must not take the value of this trust for granted. Trust must be continuously built and earned. And the Nordic societies are characterized by openness and willingness to debate, which is really essential to build trust. So we must keep on investing in our democracies to make sure that they are resilient and so they can withstand challenges from forces who want to foster division, destruction, and disruption. In the Nordic Council of Ministers, we focus on sharing and exchanging knowledge, experiences, and views, thus creating trust between us. And with this trust, we can also develop joint policies and solutions, delivering on this whole Nordic Vision 2030, making sure that the Nordic is the most integrated and sustainable region in the world. So, dear friends, the Nordic Council of Ministers, also we have been a partner here in the Arctic for more than 30 years, and I trust that we will continue that, of course. And we just launched our new Nordic Arctic program, and this is a program that will contribute to robust civil societies, to sustainable economic growth, and the green transition in the Arctic. And the program has a special focus on supporting local Arctic partnerships that inspire resilience across the region. We will also strengthen our cooperation with our neighbors, both to the east and the west, being the Baltic states, on this people-to-people relations and building resilient societies. Because speaking about resilience, of course, trust is a key element here. Resilience, of course, is not only a focus here in our Nordic Arctic program, but also, of course, a focus of our main overall priorities. So the Nordic Council of Ministers is giving high priority to increasing our knowledge, exchanging experiences, and developing joint solutions to increase our preparedness within all sectors of our cooperation. Because together we must make sure that our societies can manage multifaceted threats and challenges and attacks on civil liberties and democracy. So therefore, I'll repeat it again, dear friends, we must not take this invaluable trust that we share in the Nordics for granted. And we must do what we can to build trust on all levels, across borders and sectors. The Nordic region is indeed the strongest when we collaborate. So I really look forward to listening to the conversations taking place very soon here in the soft chairs. But thank you very much.
Karen, please remain seated. Standing, I mean. Sorry. Just to follow up with a couple of brief questions. Thanks for your speech. As you mentioned, the launch of the new Nordic Arctic program. Could you please elaborate a bit on what you think will be the most important trust-building measures in that program?
How much time do I have?
No. Half a minute.
But okay, then let me focus on one. It's always difficult to make priorities in a huge, large program. But I think also Maria mentioned it, the whole people-to-people cooperation. Civil society cooperation, that's really a core value here when we talk about being resilient communities, being resilient populations, having a resilient region, a resilient Nordic region. So when we are able to actually have funds that you can apply for and that you can have these joint partnerships, that's really, really valuable. You probably all know that we had a big youth conference, not we, but it was a joint collaboration, Arctic Youth Conference this weekend. 300 young people from across the Arctic region. Listening to their conversation, listening to the way that they really, right there on the spot, created trust, created dialogue, creating enormously important connections that are long-lasting. And that needs to be nurtured. It's not a free ride to make sure that 300 young people are gathered and having the conversations. So we still need to make sure that we have funding. How do we have funding in the Nordic Council of Ministers? Well, thanks to all taxpayers in all of the Nordic countries, because this is public funding. Public funding is only there if we have thriving businesses. So I mean, it's all interlinked. Yep. But the people-to-people cooperation, I would really highlight that, and I'm looking very much forward to what we can actually achieve with this new 10th program.
Sounds interesting. Thank you. And just another one. Trust between the people and the governments are high in the Nordics. But one possible vulnerability is perhaps trust between the periphery and the capitals. So I wanted to ask you, how can the Nordic Council contribute to strengthening or maintaining trust between central governments and the regions?
A lot of our initiatives are on a regional level and creating these arenas for dialogue. And I think that all of our democracies, yes, they are strong, but they need to be nurtured. So when we talk about politics and when we talk about local politics and being engaged in politics, it's all a matter of also feeling what's at stake in your local community, making sure that you create these arenas where you have the dialogue. So our democratic model is evolving. I mean, interacting and developing new policies is really developing through dialogue and through these very important arenas where you actually meet. I mean, I've been a politician in Danish politics for many, many years, and I started in local politics. And I remember having these meetings where you really try to gather everyone living there. If you talked about the local school, do we largen it or do we cut it in half and make two small local schools? I mean, these debates, they can really create a very high tension, but they are so important. So, I mean, that's trust. You need to trust your local politicians. Otherwise, who would run for office? That's another problem. Who would run for office if it's only, they never listen to me? Yes, politicians listen. They listen a lot. And they are in charge of making the difficult priorities and the difficult positions. So take care of your politicians.
Thank you very much. And then, finally, I will give the floor to Dag Rune Olsen, the rector at the Arctic University of Norway, University in Tromsø. We're going to talk about the role of knowledge in a new North. The floor is yours.
Knowledge, ladies and gentlemen, well, it's pretty obvious that that's core business for universities, isn't it? But it might be a difficult business model, a difficult core business to undertake these days in the area of fake news. That doesn't mean that it's not desperately important. And in like-minded countries, in like-minded societies, I do actually think, I believe, that we do have trust in knowledge. If we don't do that, if we don't have that, it won't be possible for us to solve some of the bigger challenges ahead of us. Because we do need knowledge to deal with the climate change and the consequences of it. We do need knowledge to develop societies that are resilient, that are secure, that also are robust and sustainable. Otherwise, also policymakers will be out of their toolbox. So how do we do this? Well, of course, geopolitics has changed a lot. Our university collaborated a lot with universities and research institutions in Russia before the war. That is obviously not possible anymore. That does not mean that we don't need knowledge about Russian institutions, politics, societies. But we also need to realize that one door closes, another one opens. And in this context, I think it's worthwhile to reflect over the fact that we might have neglected collaboration with our Nordic countries to the same extent as we should have, whilst we were focusing collaboration with Russian institutions. Well, now, ladies and gentlemen, it is about time that we rethink our strategies, and Nordics is important. And the northern part of the Nordics are, for us, utterly important. For quite some years, we have collaborated between universities in the north of these three countries, Finland, Sweden, and Norway. There was 5 of us at the time, but now we have strengthened our collaboration. There are 2 universities in the northern part of Finland, there are 2 universities in the northern part of Sweden, and there are 2 universities in the northern part of Norway that has come together in Arctic 6, as the city mayor alluded to, that form a cluster, not only where we have student exchange and all the ordinary stuff that universities that collaborate together with each other have, but we have taken it one step further. And we have been listening to the regional politicians that do have a collaboration between the city mayors in the relevant cities and the counties in this part of the Nordics to come together and also extend our activities to see how can we foster resilient, thriving societies through collaborating with the private sector. We've prioritized the energy sector as a model for how we can collaborate. The universities collaborating with the energy sector to see, can we boost activities? Because if we can boost activities, if we can have more people coming to the north because our private sector is thriving, well, then we will also contributing to resilient, robust, secure, and sustainable societies. And after all, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, I think that is the most important thing that we can contribute to see to it that our part of the world is not threatened in this geopolitical turmoil that we experience. It's not trivial to collaborate across the different sectors, politics, businesses, and academia, because we don't necessarily share the same language. But we need to come together. We need to sit together around the same tables and challenge each other. To understand the languages we do not share, we need to learn. But I think the common sort of challenge we face, well, that will really make their efforts worthwhile. We do this because it is actually our core business, and we do this because it makes us stronger together. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Dag Rune. It's interesting to hear about how you work together with other universities in the region. So in the Arctic 6, you said that you gathered together local communities, mayors. What would you say are the main common challenges that they report back to your institutions?
Well, I think what's a common challenge for the universities is what a common challenge for the private sector and for the communities. And that is that we need to recruit people. People, a workforce, whether it's in the hospital or universities or whatever it is, doesn't really matter. We need to attract young people. We need to see that a life in this part of the world is really worthwhile. It has some qualities that will be sought after in the years to come. That is our challenge, but it's also our task and our job. And we will be able to succeed.
Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you all for your attention. This first part of this session is now over. I will introduce Patty Bruns can enter the stage, and there will be the first armchair conversation. Thank you all for your attention.
Everybody. I'll just start talking before I get on stage. Good morning, everybody. I'd just like to ask my panelists to come up on stage. So Mary-Louise Ronmark, Magnus Molland, and Christina Grosse. So my name is Patty Bruns. I'm the Secretary General for the Arctic Mayors Forum, and thank you to the organizers, Godel and her team, and the other organizers for inviting me this really excellent opportunity to dive a little bit into the role and responsibility that municipalities play in the safety and security of their communities. So we don't have much time, 24 minutes and ticking, so let's just dive right in. This is meant to be an armchair discussion, so please just jump in. I won't be going through any sort of questions one after the other. But Mary-Louise, I do want to start with you. As mayor of Umeå for many years and having a very long history of collaborating in Europe and across the Nordics and the Baltics, I am wondering, how does civil support function in Umeå, and what are some of the things that you're doing within Umeå and with your neighbors next door to make sure that people in your communities feel safe and secure?
Yeah, I think it's necessary what we heard before, that collaboration, having trust for the civil servant as the people living in my city, that is crucial, because what we are dealing with now is a lot of things. I was last week in the border between Poland and Ukraine in the European board, talking about how to help the people. So I think it's necessary, because we are living in the Nordic part of the countries, Sweden, Norway, and Finland, and we have had trust for a long time. And trust means democracy. But what we need to understand is that if we don't have trust, if we don't put on the civil society trust for doing more creative things, so they are more open-minded for the future, they are getting afraid. And as a politician, you have to talk about that. You have to stimulate that. You have to work between the business partners together with the society and the universities. So it's a lot of things to do, and we are working now talking about the climate change and with Norwegian companies to be at the top of the list of innovations. And that is what it is all about, to have trust.
That's great. I think that's, I'd like to pull Magnus in now. Magnus is the mayor of Stavanger in northern Norway, representing the Conservative Party. And you have a background in education and also various leadership roles in business. So I want to come back to something that the state secretary said about, it's all about communities and people. Obviously, I couldn't agree more as leading the Arctic Mayors Forum. But how do you deal with making sure that people in Stavanger feel like they're part of the discussion on safety and security, and what are you doing to engage all sectors of society in that conversation?
You have to have trust trust in the organization, but the municipality of Stavanger have experienced a huge change in our international relations the past 2-3 years. I became mayor in October 2023. Stavanger is not exactly a conservative place. It became the biggest party. It's a typical blue-collar town. But my message was that we have to say goodbye to Russia and goodbye to China. And we have to say hello to the Nordic, hello to NATO and the US. And we have to be a municipality that is a part of the new Europe with European industrial autonomy, renewable energy, minerals, so a typical conservative stance. But it has been difficult for my community to embrace this change. People have worked 30 years with cross-border cooperation towards Russia. When I became mayor in October 2023, I got 3 invitations. There were 3 delegations from China knocking at my door, and then I asked the French ambassador and the German ambassador and the EU ambassador, where are the Western allies? Why are China knocking at my door but not Nordic countries and EU countries? And then, of course, the knocking stopped from China because I said I was not interested. But it's both a question about trust in a region that is in the bastion defense of the Russian army. They try to influence us. They try to divide and conquer. And so I have to be, my rhetoric has to be soft and hard at the same time. And it's impossible. But the only language, for example, Russia understand is yes or no. It's strength. But I have to reassure the civil community that that we are safe, and we are safe. But of course, this is extremely challenging in a region that has looked toward east for the past 30 years, and now they see a mayor traveling to Aulo, Rovaniemi, Ivalo is more important to me than Oslo and Tromsø, actually, because there we have cross-border cooperation with our brothers and sisters in Finland. We have a new Twin City agreement with Inari, and that's important to grow both bonds in business, but also in security, civil resilience, technology, everything we need for the future. Yeah.
Thank you. You brought up so many really good red threads there, I think, picking up on many of the things that the keynote speakers mentioned. So I'm going to bring Christine in. You are an associate professor in information systems and security at the Luleå University of Technology. And really, your expertise is on information security, society resilience, and governance. So if you have questions about anything, you can talk to Christine. But I'm wondering, from your perspective, how have the structures within our local communities and our local governance, how have they responded to these big geopolitical shifts that we're seeing? And maybe we can also get into a little bit in your response how we make sure that the local is communicated to the national and international. Easy question as a starter.
Yes, exactly. How many time I have to spend on that? So I also want to say that I'm representing the Arctic 6 here, as Dag, Rune already have introduced here, and we as a huge alliance, we have also the possibilities to have the knowledge of about 10,000 faculty and 100,000 students. So it's a huge resource you could also approach to work together. And as I see from our research at the local communities is that in Sweden we are at the moment struggling with rearranging the total defense and what that means, and civil defense and all these structures which have needs to be renewed to some extent, and much responsibility lays on the local communities. They have to do all the work, and with some help from the regions and some help from the national level. But this is not really clear who is doing what and when. So it's many tasks put on the local levels without more resources. And as you know, it is a few people sitting on these positions are responsible for many, many different tasks and how to do this in a regular way, but also in a situation we don't want to think of really. But how to do this and to organize it is really a challenge we see.
Absolutely, and I think that's actually something that's shared across the Arctic, not only in the Nordics. But Mary-Louise, you wanted to jump in here.
Yes, I think it's necessary to have the overview plan. As a local politician, you can't just look at this on the street, what you're doing. You have to have this overview plan, because you have to be a player on every level. That's why it's necessary when we are talking about safe and security nowadays. It's necessary to have all these relations. I used to talk about the overview plan. An overview plan, you can have it in Europe, in the whole world, and put it together from the bottom and on the other way. For instance, nowadays we are talking about the mobility corridor. That means that we have to go east-west, west-east, from the Atlantic to the border of Russia. And what does it mean? Because if you're talking with the people about that, they understand, because they can put some of the ideas back to themselves. That means that and that and that, and I have relations there. So when we are talking in Sweden and in the local level, we are also talking about 1/3 is on the service sector, 1/3 is on our sector, and the other 1/3 is on the business, the industry, and we have to work together. That's why it's necessary. So we are having a big play industry, games. The whole world is coming to my city next week to make business about that. And you can have that also in the local politician, artificial intelligence when you're making operations and so on. So I think it's crucial to be resilient, and we need also money from different levels. That's why I'm very happy to be in the Arctic Mayors Forum, because you need us and we need you. So put it on the agenda, please.
Thank you for that. Magnus, maybe you could say a little bit from your perspective in Northern Norway about how the responsibilities and expectations are actually divided between the national and local level, something that Mary-Louise just mentioned. But every country is different, and perhaps we should have a mapping exercise of what that looks like from a structures point of view. But what does it look like for you sitting in the mayor's office?
The common joke in Norway is that the state decides and the municipalities has to do. There's a big pressure on local communities, especially in the high north. We have big responsibilities in creating both as opportunities and harvesting our natural resources and conflicts with zoning and differences in interests. But my job is to provide good municipal services. That's my job number one. And it's to uphold good municipal services. It's to have fiscal responsibilities, to be predictable. Said more or less, we have to be more boring. Everything just has to work and tick. That's the most important issue. And in a crisis, or at worst in war, my job is to uphold municipal services. Mm-hmm. It's just that simple. Schools, kindergartens, water, renovation, that's my job. It's the state's job to protect. My job is to reassure. So I try to be. So first of all, we have to discuss where do politics starts and end. What is the municipality's role at whole, and what is the difference between municipality, the regional government, and the state government. And in the future, when we have to take some drastic decisions today that to affect what's happening in 2050 with old age dependency. The way we give services in Norway will drastically change because of lack of workforce. Mm-hmm. And so we will see. I think we will see some sort of public revolution in the near future, and that's not because we want it, but because we have to.
Yeah. So I think that you're picking up on this theme that I've actually been hearing about for over the weekend, even at the Arctic Youth Conference, about how everything is interconnected, right? So safety and security starts with the individual, and it also feeds into the structures that we have around us in our societies. Christine, you want to jump in here?
Yes, because I think it's actually very important to highlight this, because it sounds boring to ensure the functionality at the local level, and schools and energy and everything is working as usual, but this is actually the point. How to build resilience and how to create also the basis for further development. So without these ensured services, you will not have a sustainable development in the end. So I think it's really important, even if you may think that sounds boring, but this is the basis for the future, I would say.
I happen to think it's incredibly exciting, because I'm also going to go back to something that I know, Mary Louise, you feel very passionately about, and that's about democracy and making sure that our societies are rooted in democratic principles. But I'm going to bring in the question about young people and what the role of young people are, and thinking a little bit not just university-age students, but even younger people, in sort of ensuring that there is a sense of safety and security for the youngest ones, but also how do we motivate young people to be active in their communities when they don't necessarily see themselves as leaders, but we know that they are really important to engage in conversations about safe communities. So I'll turn it to you first, Mary Louise.
I've been a politician for a long time. We started up 20 years back when we made a new overview plan to put, before we made the decision, the overview plan to the school system, into the school system. So they were working with that and putting up a lot of ideas, because these young people are the leaders for the future. So we have to understand that they are putting up on the agenda a lot of lovely questions. And don't be afraid of the questions. I've been on and promoted to be on the international level for 30 years. And we are dealing with the same question. We are organized a little bit different in Sweden and in Norway, because in Sweden, as a municipality, you are dealing with every question. We say hello to the national level, but I hope you feel free. It's a joke, but still it's on that level. So I think it's necessary. If you are putting the young people, let them have money for the choirs, pop, or whatever it is.
Christine, what do you think from your chair?
I think it's twofold. One thing is creating the future needs also the visions of all of us to think a bit longer, even if you talk about infrastructure and other things. It's a quite long-term planning needed, so you need an idea about what is about 50 years or 40 years ago, or forward. What would you like the future to be? So you need them to engage in dialogue, and I think actually we can learn much from each other, sharing these ideas, but also to introduce new knowledge in schools. Often at the university level, we might be a bit late for some sort of information. We should start earlier in the school.
Absolutely. Magnus?
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and it's twofold. So my job is to create opportunities for the inhabitants of Sør-Varanger, and we have like some goals, 7, 4, 2. Some people my age, and I believe I'm still young, but I'm not young anymore. I believe I'm 20, but I'm 40. My generation changes job 7 times. I've changed housing 4 times, and we changed partner 2 times. So you have to have a market for everything. Job market, housing market, and then I call it the meat market.
Right on.
When we create opportunities, young people will come. And you have to have job mobility. That's number 1. But also, I, as a political leader, has to show respect to the youth. So I have to listen to the youth, and I have to prioritize time with the youth council and to meet the young people, and of course let them challenge my political views. The job of the youth is to challenge the established. They're supposed to be against, to want more. So I have to respect it and prioritize it, and not be what's called a old politician that we have done this like this every year. We will do the same tomorrow as well. No, change.
I think that's a great message and a takeaway from our conversation. We just have a few minutes left, so I'm going to bring the conversation back to international cooperation or Nordic cooperation in this particular case. And how do you, each of you, on a daily basis in your jobs, foster that collaboration across the borders of Finland, Norway, and Sweden? Maybe I'll start again with you, Magnus, and we'll come back to Mary Louise.
First of all, I think every week I'm interviewed about China and Russia, and just my stance that doesn't just say no and move away is important. But of course, I speak with my municipal what should I call it, colleagues in Finland, in Inari, and we have to do more in Auvalo, Rovaniemi, Sudankylä. It's really important to have more bonds. So Finnish investors are looking towards Sør-Varanger, and I want Norwegian investors to go to Finland. And I asked my Finnish colleague Juha, do you want the oil fund to invest? Yes, of course. We like oil in Finland as well. So I spend a lot of time to take the municipality in a new course.
That's great.
Yeah, as I said before, the Arctic 6 is a great forum for just these collaborative activities. We have a number of different projects, and we also start a new initiative with some more focus on the security issues, gaining more attention here in the Arctic regions. So this is one part, but of course we also would like to have still more collaboration at the local levels with other partners, because many research is done at the urban level, so we have a lot of solutions dedicated to areas with a high population density, which are not suitable, as we heard before here, for this region. We need also other solutions, more experimentations, and this can we only do together with the local partners, actually.
Perfect. Mary Louise, how should we cooperate? How do you cooperate, and how might we cooperate better between borders?
I will move on, as I've done for 30 years, because we need, on the global level, the European level, the regional, the Nordic, and the local level. It's a long-term cooperation. It's not from this year to next year. It's a long-term cooperation. We have to be open-minded because we are different as persons, not only between the countries. But we need to focus a lot about the Nordic countries also now. But don't be protectionist. That is a big danger. You have to be open-minded. You have to open up your arms. That's for the long term. Because we need each other. For the last year, we are decreasing the democracy, liberal countries in the world. It's less than 200 now. That is also an answer.
Thank you for that. Well, I think we've sort of reinforced the main themes of our keynote speakers about trust and about the importance of community and really fostering communication at all levels, you know, between municipalities, between education institutions, and really look towards the structures that we already have in place and strengthen those as much as we can. So I would like to please ask you to join me in thanking our panelists for their inputs into the conversation today, and I'll hand it over.
Thank you so much, Patty and the Arctic Mayors Forum, and to our great speakers from the municipalities. It's now time to turn over to another very important topic between the Nordics, business and energy. I would like to welcome on stage Idar Kreutze from the Confederation of Norwegian Enterprise, Jan Gietanime from Business Oulu, Petter Bjørkli from Energy in the North Cluster, and Karina Solan from Luleå Energy, please. I would like to start with you, Idar. You represent the national level, and we've heard the backdrop, the complicated geopolitical situation, the fear in some municipalities, a lot of difficulties. How on earth are we going to make business in this complicated landscape? Are you optimistic? What is your view?
I think the best thing is to be realistic, trying to understand what is going on and what is needed, and how to position ourselves to both manage the risks and utilize the opportunities. You know, sitting here, I represent 34,000 Norwegian companies in all sectors. And when we look at the region that we are discussing now, the Arctic region, I mean, perhaps the key question is, do we believe in 25 years that the activity in this region will be increased or decreased? And what we see is a region that is growing in importance, growing in relevance, and we do expect that we will see more activity in this region in 25 years than we see today. And that is, there are a number of key drivers that has been discussed already and will be discussed, but it has to do with defense, it has to do with fisheries, it has to do with minerals, energy, and logistics, transport routes. I mean, a number of reasons. And then looking at the development, well, if we expect increased activity, there are some key parameters that needs to be in place. We need talent, we need people, we need investments, I mean capital, and we need relevant infrastructure, both physical infrastructure but also communication infrastructure. And what we see is, I mean, business is a key part in all of this. So absolutely. I mean, if that is being optimistic, well, yes, but I think that's a realistic assessment.
You just heard the mayor of Sør-Varanger, Magnus Mæland, point to the need for investments, and actually that's a topic that is raised in every conversation in the Nordic, in this area. How can we make sure that we have good investors? What can we do to attract more investments?
Yes, this is on several levels, of course. It is a big debate in Norway about how to attract and stimulate private investments in Norway, not only in the northern part of Norway, in all of Norway. And I think it's, and this is often reduced to becoming a discussion about tax systems and tax structures. But it's fundamentally, significantly more important than that. We really need to think through what also Draghi puts on the agenda as a European challenge. We need to put in place mechanisms to attract investments and to see to that focused investments in business, in technologies, in development will form the platform for scaling businesses in Norway. So that's level one. Level two is to showcase opportunities, to attract investments from other places. I mean, if this is a region that we do believe that will have increased activities, there are ample opportunities to make good investments in the area, and we should showcase that. And then I also think it is important when we often end up discussing the use of public money. How should public money be used in a situation like this? And I think it is very important to think through how can public money be used catalytically to stimulate private investments, so that you use one public dollar or krona or euro to release 10, a multiple on 10 on private investments. So we need to work together to find these mechanisms to really drive the investments that we need to see happen in this region.
Thank you. Jana, you represent Business Oulu, and you are, such a strong force, Business Oulu. Everybody talks about Business Oulu, and I can see you nod when Idar is mentioning the partnership public-private investment activities. Please share from your experience. Are you optimistic as well, or what do you see from Oulu? What's your perspective?
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for this great opportunity. I'm definitely optimistic. I'm always optimistic. Some people call that I'm naive, but a lot of discussion about the trust. I think it's a good starting point. But when it comes to the investments, at least in Finland, I would see that access to capital is not the key bottleneck currently when it comes to the industrial facilities. Some years ago, maybe 12 years ago, we used to have the foreign minister in Finland who went to USA and said that Finland has 3 challenges: Russia, Russia, Russia. And when he came back home, that's not wise foreign policy. But in a way, he was right. Now we could say that we have 3 things for investment, and it's electricity, electricity, and electricity. We are abundant with the clean, affordable electricity, and it attracts the investors there. we also have very good electricity network from north to south, which is maybe not the case in, for example, in Norway. But about the practical things that I'm optimistic for the investments and also the Nordic collaboration. Last week only, there was 2 news from the new hydrogen projects. One in Nokia, in the middle of Finland, by Freja from Norway. They came out with a big e-methanol project. The second one in Naantali, in Nordendal, there, Turku region, liquid wind, which is also building a facility in Umeå. I saw there was a mayor of Umeå here. So very good examples. If we look at the Oulu only, we have 2 projects. The other one is French Verso Energy, having their project in the port of Oulu, and the second is with the municipal energy company, Oulun Energia, together with the P2X Solutions, that is backed by the Swiss Alpic Energy company. Of course, you might think that do we want to have, what kind of an investors we want to have, but I'm very happy that with both of those cases there is also the local interest represented.
Yeah. Thank you. So Idar pointed to the importance of showcasing the opportunities. Maybe speak louder about the success stories. Do you think that we could do better in that in the north? Do we think that everyone knows us so well? Do we need to work harder on selling? Maybe we're not that good at it in the northern parts of Norway and Finland. We are a little bit, we don't speak too loud about ourselves.
Yeah, and it's same with Oulu as well, because it's really like the technology and the research and R&D driven city. I think it's the highest R&D investment per capita, at least in Finland, 3,500 euros per capita. And when we are focusing on the technology, we might forget the customer needs, and there we should also understand when we speak about those investors, that what are their needs, that we should really design our offering against their needs.
Do you think that when we this is maybe a question to you both. When we cooperate, when we have, like we do in the project Team Nordic Arctic, we have matchmakings. We make businesses from Finland, Sweden, and Norway meet young people who make business out of gaming, for example, health tech, things like that. Do you think that could, make it more exciting, for example, for both investors and young talent to come to or join us in this region?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think this should happen on several levels. It starts with the students, exchange programs and working together between students and master thesis, and also when it comes to the PhD, when it comes to researchers and working closer together. It has to do with innovation, share ideas, and their trust comes into play again, because we have a big advantage that we trust each other, so we can share and build on each other's successes. But then when it comes to business, in particular when it comes to early phase startups, but also when it comes to scaling, we should have networks between the startups, between the businesses, between the incubators, but also when it comes to investors. Just as was mentioned in the previous panel, it's so important that Norwegian investors go to Finland and go to Sweden to learn and to get their ideas. But also when it comes to board members and when it comes to people working in the businesses. So if you have experienced board members from Norway coming into boards in Finland, you will have a very fruitful exchange. So this should happen on several levels, and it can really be attractive for a lot of people, and it will drive innovation and drive competitiveness.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Jan mentioned electricity, and I would like to turn to our friends from the energy sector. Karina Sulan, you are from Luleå Energy, and what are your thoughts when you think about this whole picture, both when it comes to challenges and opportunities. And I know that you have a very good cooperation with Petter from Energy in the North Cluster. Please share your thoughts.
Well, when it comes to electricity, I can agree about that. And as an energy company, we need to optimize the energy system for all our customers. And to do their business, we need energy. So it's very crucial. And we are moving forward step by step. We are not waiting for the best solution because that's never going to happen, because you have to need a model to do this step by step and change what needs to be changed. And we do it together. We do it with other actors in the chain, and that's the way we get strong together and can move forward. So
is it sometimes a problem to introduce cooperation and trust in this business? Do you meet the competition sometimes that kicks in, or?
Well, we have worked in Luleå with something we call Luleå-modellen. It's a model for collaboration, and there the main course was to enable the transition. And the solution is to, by streaming the system, the booking system of capacity, we can optimize the grid of expansion of electricity. And to come to that, we initiated and gather actors that normally doesn't sit together, and did this built on trust. Because if we don't have trust, we don't share the crucial thing you have to share with each other, so we can move on.
Yeah, thank you. So Petter, you come from Hammerfest yourself in Finnmark. We speak about security and emergency preparedness a lot, which was also the case in the previous panel. And energy security is indeed a very relevant aspect in this. What do you see from where you are?
To go back to where Idar started, I too am optimistic for the future. But the last couple of years is the first time I actually asked myself, could I now, with my hand on my heart, recommend my kids to stay in Northern Norway? And for the first time, the answer to that question might be maybe. It was yes, now it's maybe. And that's not mainly due down to the sort of the geopolitical security situation. It's more about, are we using the possibilities we have to grow our societies, where the business side is sort of one of the main focuses to do so. We see that there is a drag in the system, so to say. The speed is decreasing. We have a big portfolio of sort of green projects, which all of them in turn are sort of slowing down. So the optimism is in some way gone. But now with the close collaboration with Finland and Sweden, the optimism is starting to growing and coming back slightly.
Why are the projects slowing down?
I think there are many factors in that respect. The market situation on the global scale, the support system for the sort of the investments. There are a lot of factors coming into it. We discussed yesterday, is fossil fuel still the sort of main target for the future as well? Might be, but that has an effect on the new project and the new value change we wish to create.
Yeah, because we want the transition, we want to be part of the green shift. Are we in this region?
Part of it? Yes, definitely we are part of it. And maybe the schedules are slightly shifted, even in Norrbotten in Sweden. But the projects are still moving forward rapidly, I should say. The plans are continuing, and I refer to the industries that are doing the green transition.
Peter and Karina, can you just share some stories? How do you work? You are in. What kind of activities do you have when you work together? Do you gather young people? Do you exchange ideas?
From our side, I think we are doing several different activities, both with Sweden and with Finland. First and foremost, it has been talked about a lot on this stage today. It's about building trust. We need to trust each other. I need to know that Janne is a guy I want to work with. And now I know that, so now we can take sort of the next step in our collaboration. Same with Karina. And then it's about, for us, from a Norwegian perspective, it's about learning what's going on in Finland and in Sweden. We read the news, we heard the stories, but you need to be there to sort of see it in your own eyes. And traveling to Luleå and seeing sort of all the billions being invested is wow. But then again, it raises the question, okay, will our projects have enough electricity, or will everything being shipped to Luleå? Because the demand there is enormous. Same now, mid of February, we are traveling to Aulo with a business delegation. And then we are sort of both collaborating on a project called Ung i Nord, Youth in the North. And we are also bringing investors, and we are bringing business development people from the energy, the biggest energy company in Norway, basically, to see what are the opportunities both on the competence side, but also on the business side. Could there be some connections which are extremely exciting for the future?
Yeah, and the boards could meet like either.
Yeah, and just back to sort of, we are part of the shift, but our aim is not being part of the shift. Our aim is to sort of take a leading role in that shift. That's the biggest opportunity, I think, from a northern perspective, is that for once we have the chance of leading something, not following years behind. And part of that is sort of being early involved also on the development of technologies, development of solutions, which usually, historically, has come to Hammerfest, for that matter, sort of chewed and ready to be implemented. Then we lack something.
Yes, just to follow up on that. I mean, it's absolutely fundamentally depressing hearing you saying that you are unsure what you would advise your kids to do. But I understand what you're saying and why you are saying it. And I think there are 2-3 elements important in this. One is that we, in Norway, we need to help each other to get a sense of urgency. We are spending way too much time doing what we know is necessary. I mean, just let's help each other make it happen, and let's help each other to get that sense of urgency. And the second part is, let's put up some key routes, some key priorities that we agree on, so that when our members are considering investments, they know that this will not change with a new government, it will not change with a new headline in the newspapers, because we mean it, and we are following up on it. So you can consider this the strategy that we will follow. So that reduces the risk making these investments. These 2 elements are absolutely key. And when it comes to the transformation and the green transition that we are in the middle of, obviously the Arctic region has a key role to play, both because it will carry the most severe burdens of climate change, but also because we have knowledge, we have technologies, we have understanding, we have a role to play in that green transition. But what we have seen also lately is the discussion: should we protect nature or should we develop our industries? And the answer is yes. We should protect nature and we should develop our industries. And what we need to do is to find the good routes, the fact-based routes for a symbiotic collaboration in meeting these 2 objectives. It should not reduce our ability to act. It should increase our focus on building the technologies, the understanding, and the key processes to make it happen.
Thank you. Karina?
Yeah, and I had a question there, but energy efficiency is crucial. And when you say we need to do both, we can do both. We need to optimize the electricity or the need of it. And we need to do so by flexible contracts for the electricity grid use. We also need to utilizing surplus heat from the industry. It's coming a lot of that. And we know that district heating plays a really important role from this point, and we can relieve the power grid. So this is a combination that will take care of nature, but also build our businesses strong and the industrial development.
And the businesses should be, the industry should be by the table and be part of the solution.
Yes. And one more thing, leadership. I think that is the main thing to succeed now. We need to develop groups because they handle constantly changing reality. And if we create effective teams to do what no one else has done before, we're going to succeed. But it's about trust. It's not what we say anymore, it's what we do now. So this
Thank
is
you.
what we need to
We're
do.
running out of time, so I'm going to give the floor to Petter and then to Gunnar, please.
Yeah, what both Idar and Karina mentioned now, our biggest problem, or one of our biggest problems, is basically down to the sort of societal side of the energy transition and the development. Should we preserve or should we use? If we don't solve that question, the transition will we will not use our opportunities, and people, from my perspective, will move. And then we have the sort of security issue on that effect. By us working together closely, it's also important that we use that momentum to show the rest of the world, and Europe and Brussels especially, that this is a region which should thrive on business, not be preserved for other reasons. We have the effects from the climate change first. We have the knowledge. We should use that knowledge to play a part in solving the climate crisis as well.
Gunnar.
Yeah, what to say to conclude? Maybe Peter's children, hopefully they can stay here, not, because I think that it all starts from that you have a job there. Of course, many other things, friends and close to nature, but you need to have the job there. And these green transition investments, they create the jobs, and we need to find the ways to so that they are also environmentally sound. I also like very much about this having the collaboration on the different levels. Last week I visited Luleå and Nordic Hydrogen Valleys Conference, and I noticed that with 5 countries, Nordic countries, the research collaboration is very good. We might learn something from that. Now we are aiming at having collaboration in the business development, and hopefully we see more and more examples that the companies are also collaborating, maybe starting from the board.
Exactly.
And
business, we are prepared to participate.
The businesses are prepared, and the politicians will listen, Karen said so. And you are going to Finland very soon and to Sweden to continue the cooperation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Thank you. So, Paul, we have heard so many clever insights. Are you optimistic, or?
Yeah, I guess I'm optimistic still. Yeah.
Yeah.
There has been mentioned several reasons here for being that. I'm heartened by the Rector of University in Tromsø, who said that recruitment is a key challenge, but we will solve it. So that's good.
Yeah. So I wanted to.
What about you?
Yes, I'm optimistic, but I think it's very good that, like it was said from the Arctic Mayors Forum and the municipalities, that the Arctic and the societies and the municipalities must be put on top of the agenda. So I think it's a very good sign that the Nordic Council of Ministers gives priority to actually sitting through the whole discussion and listen. So I think we have a broad range of cooperation going on between the politicians, between on the local, regional, and national level, and also between businesses and the universities, the Arctic 6. So yes, that gives us reason to expect good things for the future in the Nordic Arctic, I think.
That's true. And I also think we have to acknowledge that, everyday security is felt and experienced locally. And I don't think always it is the case that central governments validates or understand that. So I think we need to communicate better with the local municipalities. As a researcher, I'm prepared to conduct more research on that as well. There's an information warfare going on, so the need and the role of trust and knowledge is certainly important to counter that.
Yes, and I think with those words we will thank you all for coming and go out, share new plans and projects and cooperation together. And the Nordic trust, I think, will keep us strong also in the way ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your collaboration.